Now it's just a matter of applying the white paint. You can choose another color if you want, but white's going to give it a really nice dynamic, which you'll see towards the end. So just fill in that area where you've cornered off or created a contained area with the tape. I would ideally recommend that you do 2 coats of the white paint. It can be a little bit translucent, particularly with those sort of heavier colors underneath it. So you want to get a very definitive tone in the white. So yeah, perhaps consider doing 2 coats. You don't necessarily need to, but it will just give it more depth, that's all. And you don't need to just do the 2 portions. You can do a couple if you want to. Sorry, you can do 3 or 4, but I'm just doing 2 just to keep dynamics there. And then you can peel your tape off, and then you'll see you'll get those really nice sharp edges.
Hey, so how are you getting on so far? So what I want to do is just stop for a moment and just go through a couple of things just so that I can give a couple of brief explanations as to what I've been doing. A lot of it will be reasonably obvious because you would have seen it as I'm moving along, but I just want to sort of stipulate a couple of things that give it that additional little effect. So what I've done here is I've just used a tape. Masking tape's actually preferable, but I've got a lot of this stuff, so I use this. So you can just line up and then obviously paint in between, and it gives you that effect as well. The other thing that you would have seen me do is that I grab the paint while it's still wet on the canvas and then just start to drag it across, because then it will give it that natural sort of flow rather than a brush look. It looks like the wind's actually blown the paint across the canvas. So it just starts to blend it all a bit together rather than having sort of straight colors. So you just start to mix it up a lot more. What I'm going to do in the minute is I'm going to do some more of the tape fixtures, but I'm going to just run some more different colors. Then after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out the bubble wrap, and we're going to start to use a bit of the bubble wrap just to give a nice sort of bubble effect. And then I'm going to start sort of dropping and splattering the background a bit more. So in essence, what we're doing is just creating layers on top of it and patterns. So there's nothing specific that we're trying to achieve. It's just that we're filling it and just creating this energy and motion as a background before we put it up onto the easel and then start to incorporate the actual portrait composition. So yeah, I'll try and explain it the best way that I can as we move through it, but hopefully sort of gathering as we're moving along. Enjoy.
Now I'm just going to apply a couple of bigger areas, but this time rather than the white, I'm going to use a primary red color, or a red essentially, and I'm just going to make the areas a little bit wider than the white skinnier ones. And for this, I'm going to do 2 at the base, or at least facing down to the base of the canvas. You want to make sure that your tape's down nice and flat, by the way, as well, because the paint can actually roll under the tape if you don't have it down securely. But you're probably aware of that, of course. Now the red is going to jump out a little bit more because, as mentioned, it is primary color. So it's quite rich, but it's going to start to slowly lift the dynamics in the painting. So I've actually changed my mind in regards to applying 2 triangle reds. I'm actually going to put in a primary yellow, just use standard yellow. So you don't need to mix it with anything, you can just apply the yellow. Now the trick with the yellow is to apply at least 2 layers, because the yellow tends to be a little bit translucent, so that you'll see the background, it will pretty much come right through that yellow. So I recommend giving it a couple of coats just so it looks a bit more permanent and a bit thicker and a bit richer. So you can see there's some nice patterns starting to occur as the background now. So I put up a yellow. It's always a good idea to give it 2 coats, as I just mentioned before. Yeah, it creates a bit more depth and less translucent. Now we're going to take off the tape, and you can see that looks pretty cool. And then take the tape off the red one as well. And that's good. I'm happy with that. Now I'm going to apply a couple of other effects. So here's where you grab your bubble wrap, 20 by 10 centimeters, and just paint a lighter color or a lighter tone of the green that you've already used. Apply some white paint to it, just so that you'll get a lighter color in front of that green. If you use the same green, of course, you're not going to get that definition of the bubble wrap or the spots. So yeah, just apply a little bit of white to that mix, and then apply it to the bubble wrap, and then it'll give you that nice spotty effect, which looks good. After you've applied the bubble wrap, what you want to do is start to water down your white paint a little bit into a jar, and then you can start throwing the paint across the canvas to give that splattered look. You will need to dilute it slightly just so it will splatter rather than sort of be in big blobs of thick paint, and it will travel a bit more distance if it is a bit thinner, the paint. So just apply a bit of water to it, or a bit of flow medium if you've got that, but it's better to use water because it's cheaper for this sort of technique. And you can change the color a bit. You can use like a lighter yellow as well, and the white, and just give that sprinkles across the background, and it gives a really nice effect. All you're really doing with this effect is just dipping your paintbrush into the mix and just throwing it across the canvas. It's not too complicated. But it gives it a really nice appeal in the background. I'm also flicking a bit of the black as well, just to sort of tone and give it a bit of definition in the painting as well, a bit of depth or darkness, rather than just being too much white and yellow. Don't be afraid to apply, really sort of splash and paint around. It's totally up to you how evenly you want to distribute the splashes, and sort of shift the colors as well if you want to. You can you don't just necessarily need to use the whites or the yellows and the blacks. You can incorporate the colors that you've already used as well, because it will blend in quite well, and you're just creating dynamics in the background for the portrait. What I will do in the minute, I might just portion off just another area in terms of the tape and the triangle effect, and just give another the pastel type color, the soft color, and make it a little bit more dominant through the middle area. And also, yeah, as I'm doing now with the bubble wrap, just starting to fill up those areas, give it a few more dynamic features and lighter tones. You're just creating a lot of busyness in the background, which is going to be nice when the main composition actually sits on the front of it all. So here I'm just applying the tape, sectioning off another area, and I'm just going to use sort of a lighter pink or maybe an orangey type color. Peach probably be the most appropriate. Yeah, so a peach type color. And that'll probably be my final part of the background, which is actually looking really good now. So I'm quite happy with that. So once that's completed, I'll pull the tape off, and it should look really nice and ready to go for the main portrait.